Good morning. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here. So, America is in burn it down mode. That's the conversation this morning. I don't think it's any surprise. We had talked about this some on the Radioactive podcast yesterday, but I realize all you folks don't tune into that podcast. I get it. But America, I don't want to sit here and say America is finished. I know some people say it's finished, it's over. Why do we keep beating a dead horse? I don't think America is finished, but it's a fire sale at this point. It seems like the people in charge of our country just can't get this experiment over with fast enough and move on to something else. So yesterday, during a fundraising event in Washington D.C., Joe Biden, everybody's favorite president. Can I get an FJB, by the way? That's sarcasm. Everybody's favorite thief in chief said Japan is xenophobic. As a matter of fact, here's a direct quote. Our economy is growing. Why? Because we welcome immigrants. Then he goes on to say, again, direct quote, why is Japan having trouble? Russia, India, because they're xenophobic. It's complete burn it down mode. All right. India, Japan, allies of the United States. I don't even know why you would make a comment like this, even at a fundraising event. You understand what I'm saying? This is just Joe Biden doing what Joe Biden does best and dumping gasoline everywhere. It's almost like he's trying to start a war while also at the same time trying to get our allies over here somewhere. We don't need allies. We're not going to have many allies left if he keeps talking this way. So, what he's saying, first and foremost, is incorrect. He says our economy is growing. I would say that's incorrect. If our economy is growing, there is a whole lot of spin being put on it by somebody because, as I've said previously, I'm not seeing it. We may have people taking on 2 or even 3 jobs. We may have people that have lost a job because of the, Nancy Pelosi was told this. Matter of fact, I think it was on MSNBC this past week. Nancy Pelosi was calling Joe Biden the greatest jobs presidents in history. And the MSNBC reporter said, Miss Pelosi, there was a pandemic. People lost jobs because of the pandemic. Pelosi got enraged over that comment, but it's the truth. A lot of people lost jobs, a lot of people got hours cut. They're getting back into the workforce and they're not finding gainful employment like they had before. They've seen a huge pay cut in the jobs and things they've had to take. I don't even know what he is talking about when he says that. Our economy is growing because we welcome immigrants. That's also incorrect. We welcome immigrants, but he is referring to the illegals that are pouring into our nation. Those are not immigrants. You know, my grandmother on one side was an immigrant from Italy. She came through New York. She became a citizen there, right? There's a process in place for a reason. She was an American immigrant, an American citizen. Sorry, jumping a broken fence at the border of Mexico and Texas does not inherently make you a citizen. But again, these people aren't going anywhere. But he refers to them as, as immigrants. Then he goes on to say, why is Japan having trouble? Russia, India, because they're xenophobic. That's also false. Russia's at war. Lest we forget, Russia's in the middle of a war right now. They have a wartime nationalized economy. Everything that is happening in Russia in terms of economy is war driven. All right. So they're not seeing, matter of fact, even with the sanctions and the war, Russia's not seeing the same type of inflation that we're seeing in the United States of America. So that comment makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, they do have to worry about conscription and stuff like this, the draft. But when they go to the grocery store, stuff is cheaper and it's on the shelves. Try that. Y'all time talking about try that in a small town. Try that in a small town, folks, here in the United States. Go to a grocery store and try and find cheap beef right now. cheap chicken. You know what I'm saying? You can get the steaks at Dollar Tree, but I'm not eating that crap. I'm saying a decent, cut of steak or something. It's not cheap anymore. So Russia's at war. If they're having any sort of economic issues, that's why. India's economy is booming right now. So this is another, like everything he said in that quoted statement is a lie. India's doing great. They're not spending money that they don't have. I think they are the fifth largest economy in the world, and they're growing leaps and bounds where the wheels are falling off here in the United States. And Japan, they are a firm ally of the United States. They are dealing with population issues. They don't have enough people. We had something to do with that in World War II, just saying. But they've seen a birth decline in their country. Even so, they're strategically placed. We're ramping up for a war, you know, in the Taiwan Strait. China's there, Russia's there. You need allies. South Korea, we got to protect South Korea. Japan is strategically located. So why would you call him xenophobic? Why is this man trying to start wars while also running our allies off? This is ludicrous to me. Everything he said was a lie. I mean, going back down the list, our economy is growing. That's a lie because we welcome immigrants. That's a lie. They're not immigrants that he's talking about. Why is Japan having trouble? They're xenophobic. That's a lie. Why is Russia having trouble? They're not. That's a lie. Why is India having trouble? They're not. Their economy's booming. That's a lie. This dude is just like a pathological liar. Um, but we're gonna get into it a little deeper here. If you don't mind, like and subscribe to the channel, or consider doing so. And if you're a member here on the channel or a member on Patreon, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time today, we're having an exclusive live stream, just a hangout live stream. We do this every week. Check the membership tab. If you want to join us, there will be a link available to you in the membership tab. So, this is Joe Biden and his administration's biggest fault. And there are many. And I could go with taxes, but my blood pressure does not need to take a beat down this early in the morning, son. They are constantly pouring gasoline and trying to burn it down. Constantly. Again, going back to the radioactive podcast yesterday, we were talking about HR 6090. So, for those that are not familiar, HR 6090 is a bill that is going to ban anything that is considered hate speech against Jewish people. All right. Not really a legal bill when you get into it constitutionally speaking, but it's already passed the House. The Senate's looking at it. If they pass it, Joe Biden will absolutely sign it into law. They don't want people talking negatively about Jewish people. Um, while at the same time, that's in one hand. We got to protect the Jewish people here in the United States. Okay. In the other hand, the Biden administration is considering importing a whole lot of refugees from Gaza who are currently living in Egypt. So when those folks get here, what do you think they're going to think about, the Israel folks that live here? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And we were talking about this yesterday. On one hand, the man is saying we have to protect this group of people. On the other hand, here let's begin to import their biggest enemies. Right? I mean, this is all this administration has done from day one. I'm going to unite the people. He's done nothing but divide the people. I'm going to hold myself accountable. He's done nothing but blame other people. This is all they do. It's all they've ever done. The COVID relief bill, I forget how many trillions of dollars that was, or whatever. I mean, COVID money, free money for everybody during and after the pandemic. Some people are still living in the pandemic in their own minds. You know what I'm saying? But that's another conversation for another day. The COVID relief bill is the only reason the United States' economy has not collapsed. Think about that for a second. Think about all of the money that was pumped into schools, into businesses, into all these different business sectors and industries, and put into people's pockets, and rent being paid, mortgages being paid during the COVID relief bill, that free ride is over. That funding is going away, and that's why we're beginning to see mass layoffs. That's why schools are panicking. That's why a lot of different industries are like, we can't afford to stay in business now. But again, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the administration, they claim that his economic plan is working. Bidenomics, it's working. No, Joe, you just pumped a bunch of free money into the economy. You threw a band-aid on something that's just pouring out blood, right? Everything done right now, everything that is being done right now is what you would do to end the United States of America. If I was an enemy of the United States of America, okay, and I somehow found myself in charge, right? I don't think he's in charge, but again, another conversation for another day. Probably be discussing that on the exclusive stream this afternoon. Actually, everything that is being done right now is what I would do to end the country. I would bankrupt the country. I would let the barbarians rush over the gates and just flood the country, and I would stop people legally, which is what they're trying to do, from complaining about it. You know, you can't complain about it. That's hate speech. Will fine you or will imprison you. That's me. And so, that's what I would do if I was trying to sack Rome 2.0. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I don't understand how most Americans don't see it. Some Americans do. Some Americans are awake to the fact, but a lot of Americans, I guess the old bread and circuses, they're just distracted or whatever the case may be. As preppers, though, are we mentally tough enough for what comes next? There's a lot of damage being done to our country right now. Whether we get a new president or whether we get 4 more years of Joe Biden, there's so much damage that's being done. Again, you can debate in the comments. I'd love to see this debate. Are we done as a nation? Or can it still be repaired? Are we just gonna have to take a hardline stance against a lot of things? I don't know. 4 more years of Joe Biden, as I said yesterday, dooms the United States of America immediately. If this man wins re-election, reselection, whatever, if he gets 4 more years, I'm going into doomsday mode at that point because I realize, number one, he's not going to make it 4 more years, physically speaking. He's not going to be able to even walk onto a stage at that point. But number two, the policies that are being put out by this administration, they will doom the United States of America within 4 years. Are you preparing for that scenario? I'm hopeful like y'all. Got my fingers crossed like y'all. I'm praying we get a different president. I would really like to see Trump in there. I think that he would at least slow the damage down and try and repair some of it. But worst case scenario, again, Joe Biden for 4 more years. Are you prepared for that? You stack it to the rafters all you want, right? And that's good if you've done that. Are you mentally prepared for 4 more years of this clown show? This guy has the nuke codes. All right. This is the guy that can start a nuclear holocaust, and he can't form a coherent sentence. Think about that when you think about the idea of this man getting 4 more years. So thank you very much for listening. For the members of the channel and the folks on Patreon, I will see y'all shortly here live. For the folks here on YouTube, you guys will get a condensed version of that sometime this weekend. I appreciate everybody being here. Y'all take care. God bless.